nice. Remington 870 TAC 14. BATJAC J.W. here. We're after range report, so that's what we're going to be doing. Got my coffee. We're going to be talking about it. So if you stumbled across this video and it may not be what you're looking for, we're going to be talking about this thing. Just took it to the range, just purchased it, so got my coffee and we're just going to chat about it. Really cool stuff. Get this out right now. I bought this thing because I'm when I buy stuff, and when it comes to this stuff, it's all cosmetics, and it's all usually because I'm a huge movie buff. That's about the extent of it all, and not really necessarily what is more tactical or more functional or any of that kind of stuff. Now, it's all just because, man, look at that. Of course, those of you that are subscribed to my channel for a while, you've been around my videos a bit, you know why I bought it. You can tell right here. The beautiful wood forend, that corn cob style classic Remington police look. And look at that. That's really cool. That actually is really neat. Now, there is the hole on the end. That's where they attach it with a screw. So I always actually did wonder that when I was looking at reviews with this thing and also. I know some of you may have looked at it and said, hey, you're missing something off of yours. Yeah, the sling point on the top right here. Because again, there, cosmetic-wise, I hated the way it looked. It looked stupid to me. It looked like this giant little tag hanging down. I know it serves two purposes. It holds a sling and, of course, to the back here, okay? And I know some people say, well, it's to stop your hand from going forward and blow your hand off. Okay, well, let's get into a lot of that. First, the finish on it. I was kind of wondering how well this finish is going to hold up. Remington seems to have a pretty tough finish on it. I actually like the finish that Remington did here. It's really nice. And we fired about... let's see if anything comes off. But we fired about 150 shells out of it within an hour or less. Both a friend of mine and myself went up there and we ran this thing through its paces. Had one hiccup, but I think a lot of that was operator error, not the machine per se. You can short chuck this thing, or if you don't rack this slide back with some authority, as with any shotgun, you're going to get a hiccup or two. And I think that's what was happening. I had one hiccup, and I did do a video, a brief video on it, doing it, that it's on Patreon. And those of you that are actually watching this on Patreon first, I appreciate it. Thank you. And of course, it's absolutely free. But those of you that watch this early on Patreon, my Patreon page, thank you. All right, but here, you got the all metal receiver and everything. That's the one thing about Remingtons, but still the polymer trigger guard here. So I guess, I don't know, trade off. You always hear some people argue that metal receiver versus alloy and all that. I don't even get into all that. That's not just the last thing I'm even concerned about. Why did I buy this thing? Black Rain. If you haven't seen Black Rain with Michael Douglas, Andy Garcia, go check it out. As Mr. Torrance says, go check it out. Because at the end of the movie, Michael Douglas receives from the Yakuza a sawed-off type shotgun. I shouldn't really say that when it's referring to this, because this is classified as a firearm. But what he receives is a really short, stubby Stevens Model 67 that looks exactly like this. In fact, it's got the same kind of grip on it, or handle. I don't know what they call it. I've heard it being referred to as a duck's head grip. And the forend on his is actually gorgeous. I love it. It's the same as what you would see on an Ithaca 37. It's got a beautiful ringed corn cob style grip. But this is awesome too. I love this. This is real classic Remington right here. So, ever since I saw that, that's what I've always wanted. I was like, man, that's so cool. So firing this thing 150 times, 150 shells went through it, not counting that's how many times it was racked. Um, was thinking about the wear and everything on it. So, under here, the shell elevator or lifter, uh, loading gate, whatever you want to call it. It's got that little bit of scratching on it, as to be expected from the shells and the base sliding in there. That's, and I'm just kind of going over this because I did wonder how well the finish was going to hold up. A lot of 870s, you see a lot of wear on that bolt right here. And of course, you see this one's getting it a little bit. I got to hand it to him again. It's pretty tough. It's pretty tough. I took it all apart, took the barrel off, the bolt out, and examined all the pieces, and it's really, really well held up pretty good. But I'm actually looking forward to it kind of wearing in, because it'll have more of a smoother, and not saying it's not smooth, but it'll just, when you get a really well worn in, scattergun like this, it feels great. So, and of course, there you got your safety and all that. So, I know 6 minutes into it, what is it like shooting it? Okay, so what I found, I shot 3 different types of shells out of it. I shot some heavy base stuff. So I shot some of the high brass stuff. This is a heavy field load. I didn't do buckshot or slug or anything like that. But honestly, after firing these, I don't think it's going to be all that much worse. But high brass. Started off with these ones here. STS light target. These are supposedly a lighter load than most. And so I shot a little bit of these, because these are actually a little bit more costly. And then, of course, your standard field loads. I shot some of those. These were really moderate. Didn't rip my hand off or jar my wrist or anything like that. And I feel like that's the story with this. It's got that kind of reputation back when I bought my Model 29 Smith & Wesson 44 Magnum, because of the movie Dirty Harry. I felt like this is kind of in that same category, per se, because I heard it. Oh, you better hold on to that. That thing will rip your hand off. It'll jump up, and all this. I remember somebody telling me that. Oh yeah, well, as an example, they said, yeah, it's gonna bash you right there, and with a Magnum, and it was kind of like what it reminds me of. It reminds me of Every Which Way But Loose, when Philo Beto heard all about Tank Abbott, or Tank Murdoch. I'm thinking of that wrestler, Tank Murdoch, and he says, "Oh, you're gonna meet Tank Murdoch." He finally meets Tank Murdoch, and I think the words were more scarier than Tank Murdoch himself. So I know, but that's my thoughts on this thing. It really wasn't that bad. It really wasn't. I even heard some people saying you better wrap this thing with something like a tape, but because it is slick. But I thought about that. I said, well, that defeats why I bought it, because it looks really cool. So I didn't want to do that. But overall, it really was neat. And I got to tell you this too. This thing does have some weight to it, and because you got metal receiver, big chunk of metal bolts, and and then of course the wood. So with all that weight, it does keep this thing on recoil. It does cut it down a bit. So that right there, you definitely have some advantages there. And again, let's look at the wear. See, I'm looking forward to that. I mean, not saying that I'm just kind of babying it. I should just, but there's no real wear, scratches or anything. Maybe a little bit right here. As you can see, some of them are really, but again, I'm actually looking forward to seeing, how it wears and all that, because I think it gives it character to me. It'll look cool. But I do like this finish. The finish that they put on it is, it's kind of got some texture to it. It's kind of a matte satin, maybe. Not really flat. Or you could say it's flat. But it's got a nice finish to it. I really like it. You can actually see here compared to the this extender is a different color than the rest, but it does look cool. I always liked the way that looked. That, look at that, beautiful wood. I like it. I really do. It's really neat. It's a neat novelty type thing. And that goes for saying, before I get out of here and finish this video up, I was concerned about uh, the future of this thing and how things will come about, because quite honestly, it is crazy that, you can walk in and purchase this without anything like, an NFA or anything like that, because of where it's classified. I just fill out the 4473, pass the background check, and you're done. 14-inch barrel right there. So classic, 870 other than that. So I thought about that, and I said, I guess if worst case scenario, uh, you could always put an 18-inch barrel on it and a proper stock, shoulder stock, and there you have it. Then you have just a regular old 870 that would be perfectly fine. And that's what made me go, well, that's true. I wouldn't have to just worry about it. So, and I know, and that's also cause for me thinking that if I ever left this state, this is perfectly fine. And in most states it is. Now there's a few that select states where you can't own this. So, if I ever wound up somewhere in those, I can always still hang on to it, because it'd be kind of neat, because I love that wood, this wood forend, that corncob style, and of course the beauty of that. But of course, they can always be turned into something that's perfectly fine. You don't want to be, you want to be careful about doing things to it, because you can't really do anything to it, because it's got to remain like this. So anyway, that's kind of my thoughts and experience with it. Just a little coffee table chat about it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Sorry it wasn't what you're expecting it to be, but there you have it. Thanks for watching. I'm BATJAC J.W. Like, share, and subscribe.